Thank you so much for inviting me over, and I'll keep this really short. So last time when I was here, I talked about the importance of public opinion in this case. So, the public opinion in different countries and the international public opinion in general will have a significant impact on the decision-making process in the different countries. And I also talk about that in general, the public still follow traditional news media such as newspapers and television news for information and public and viewpoints about important issues like this case. So we went ahead and conduct some analysis on the news coverage and the public opinion about the South China Sea dispute. So at the stage of the media analysis, we picked three countries and their respective newspapers. So we picked China, Philippines, and the United States to see how they covered the case. And then the time frame we used is from 2001, January the 1st, to December the 31st, 2014, a total of 4 years. And as for the public opinion, we look at how Twitter users talk about this case. And then from 2001, 2011, 2014, you can see that there are a total of about 372,000 tweets that talk about the South China Sea. And you can see from this graph that South China Sea dispute triggered a lot more conversation in the year of 2014 compared with the previous years. So we just did took some samples and did some preliminary analysis, and I'm going to show you some results. So we are using network analysis to see how newspapers cover the interactions between different countries. So in this graph, you can see each node represents a country, like 1 represents China, 2 represents United States, 4 represents Philippines. And in China's coverage, the triangular relationships between China, United States, and the Philippines received the most attention. And there are quite a few articles that talk about interactions between China and Vietnam. And this graph shows you the valence of the relationship. Red represents positive, yellow represents neutral, and blue represents negative. So in China's coverage, there are equivalent amount of coverage, like positive, neutral, and a negative coverage. And actually in China's coverage, China was portrayed as a good neighbor and a country to seek peace, and a country that are willing to talk with the international community. So if you look at the interaction between China and the ASEAN, all of those links are positive. And also if we take a look at the attributes of those links, so you see those different lines, like red represents conflicts, pleas, clashes, yellow represents political dialogues, pink represents economic consequences, green refers to a frame of legal framework, black refers to public sentiment, blue refers to historical legacy. Again, as I mentioned earlier, in China's coverage, China is actively working with ASEAN to resolve the issue peacefully, even using this legal framework. And in China's coverage, China criticized the United States for intervening in the issue. And China also criticized those neighboring countries like Vietnam and the Philippines for their provocative actions to cause conflicts. So that's from the China's perspective. So because I don't have a lot of time, so I'll keep the second part short. So actually, Philippines and the United States, they use a similar discourse to cover this issue, and we can see that you can see that most of the links in the Philippines coverage were negative. So a majority of the news coverage in the Philippines and the United States, they highlighted the conflicts, the clashes of the issue, and they use a lot of strong words to represent China's role. For example, Philippines like incursions, invasions to portray China's acts, and in the United States, like the New York Times and then the Washington Post, they use words like assertive, threatening, bullying, disturbing to present China's role, and then they use words like flexed. China's flexing its muscle, and also they highlighted China's ambition to pursue the economic resources like oil resources, fishing resources in the area, and even applied that China is going to take over the world commercially. So from the standpoint of communication, you can see that I would say that the coverage, especially those Western media organizations, they sort of sensationalize the issue, and they also use a very negative tone to portray China, and that may worsen the situation. And according to our analysis, as for the side of the public, to a large extent, the Twitter conversation followed how the Western media portray the issue. And again, you can see that most of the links are negative. And then rather than talking about the diplomatic means, rather than talking about political dialogues and the conversation, the majority of the Twitter users talk about the conflicts, the rising tensions of the issue. So I'll just conclude to say that because of the sensationalizing of the issue of the Western news media, the public also adopt the same discourse to think about the issue, and that's not something that we want to see. So while we are talking about the solutions to resolve the issues peacefully, we also want to take the media's role into consideration. And instead of sensationalizing the issue, a more responsible, objective representation of the issue is something that we want to encourage and call for. Thank you.